A non-fiction book that blew my mind was called American Kingpin. American Kingpin is the story about the guy who formed Silk Road, the online website where drugs could be sold. It was the Amazon of drugs that was available on the dark web. And it's about how he avoided the police capture for years and then how he was finally captured. Oh, what a fantastic story. The way it is written is like a novel. Your every chapter ends with, but he didn't know that he was going to be caught. Oh, okay, next page, next page, next page. But he just missed the police. Next page, next page. You're like, what is this? And it's a real story. So that's the most fascinating part about American Kingpin. WikiLeaks, it's about the entire story of Julian Assange and how he managed to find info and how they are trying to capture him. So WikiLeaks is also a great one. There's also the Panama Papers, because obviously it's always good to read about rich people getting richer. The good part about Panama Papers, WikiLeaks, and all these books is that they are written by the journalists who uncovered the story. So you get a first-hand info on how they actually uncovered, how a source got in touch with them, how they had encrypted laptops and mobile phones, how they hid in hotel rooms, jumped from room to room, how the police. It's very fascinating when you read how much shit journalists have to go through when you're uncovering something of national security, how journalists of the world come together, to form a forum, and we will all release the news at the same time. So we are all protected. Another non-fiction book I'm reading is called The Emperor of Maladies. That is an entire history of cancer from when it started to where it is right now. And it's quite fascinating to see how humans have evolved in terms of surgical procedures, in terms of anesthesia. Like a great fun fact, OT is called Operation Theatre. Why? Because when anesthesia was first introduced, it was like a theatre. The person would be operated in the middle and other people would sit around in a semicircle in seats and watch.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, dude, this is mad. So you find out like people used to be operated without anesthesia.
Yeah.
There's something called radical surgeries. The word radical means that you will, if cancer is, let's say a cancer is a tumor, the person wants to remove the entire body part and keep going deeper and deeper till everything is gone. So people would be literally without arms or without lower halves in those days. So it's a very fascinating book if you want to understand, because cancer for me is like one of the very, very, very deadly disease, but we still don't have a cure. We figured out everything else, but this is the most elusive one, because the more we try to fix our medicines, the more it evolves. And it's fascinating when you read about it. Few more quickly, I'll read Heretics. Have you read Sapiens? Okay, mat pad. It's a long book, very simple. You just read ke humans ye the, abhi ye hai. It's too long. I got bored halfway through. But a book called Heretics, why is it so much fun? And it's so relevant right now. Heretics did change my life only for one very specific reason. So, very simple. This guy, he goes to people and he finds out why they think the way they think. So he will go to a Nazi. He will go to someone who believes aliens exist. You know what I mean? Core philosophy of this, and the Oatmeal also had done a comic on it. It's very simple. Is that when you're born, your mind is like a house. Okay? And all your thoughts that are formed during your childhood and cognitive years are furniture in the house. Let's say my furniture is that I love candles. Candles are the best in the world. Tomorrow, Vaibhav comes and says, "Mujhe candles अच्छे नहीं लगते." That is an opposing opinion. That opposing opinion is furniture that he's trying to put in my house. But my house cannot process that furniture because it's built in such a way कि मेरा furniture ऐसे है, ऐसे ही रहेगा. So I will do everything in my mental capacity to fight that piece of furniture and be like, no, fuck you. Candles are the best. And that is exactly left wing, right wing. Anyone who believes in something believes it for a reason. Not only because you thoroughly believe in it, but because your brain is wired to believe that this is the right way to do things. That's why when you argue, sometimes you're arguing with someone and you're like, yaar, ye kab usko pata chalega that he's wrong? But you don't realize that he's looking at you saying, kab usko pata chalega that he's wrong?
Yeah.
And then you realize that you're both right.
Yeah.
It's only your house that is different. And that's a fascinating way to look at things. So please do read Heretics. It's by this guy called Will Storr. And I'm going to read 2 more books for me, which are Steal Like an Artist. 30 page ka book hai. Kuch bhi bakwas. He also has stolen. He's taking quotes from people usne dala hai. So it's a very smart idea. He's written Steal Like an Artist. He's stolen. But it's very simple. It's about creativity. And if you're someone who wants to become a creative person or push your creativity or figure out writing, read the book. Premise is that everyone steals from everyone. No idea is original. Every idea is just a slightly better / modified version of another idea. And if you can steal, then steal like an artist. Take someone else's idea, but make it yours in your own way. Oh, Originality is dead. And the last book, someone recommended recently, and this is, I would highly recommend for anyone who is facing mental health issues or who is feeling that, wow, what is happening? How to Be Miserable, 40 Strategies You Already Use by Randy J. Peterson. Every book will tell you, if you have mental health issues, this is what you need to do. This guy says, you want to be miserable, na? This is what you need to do. In his way of anti-doing it, you're like, oh shit. So for example, hey, you want to be miserable, na? Keep comparing yourself to other people. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You are useless. Everyone else is better. You suck. You need to tell yourself you suck every day. It's very funny. One of the things that is like, everyone keeps on thinking that their future will be like this grand plan. Everything, if 5 saal mein ye hoga, 10 saal mein ye hoga. Keep thinking like that. Keep thinking. Keep planning for the future. Keep thinking that the movie will continue. Don't think that you're going to die today. So it's so funny in the anti-psychology way. It is actual psychology. And if you read it, right, these are 40 techniques that everyone does. And when you read it, you're like, yaar, tu sahi hai. I think I should not be miserable. By the way, I love reading young adult fiction. And 2 that I would recommend, if you've ever read, is Artemis Fowl. The entire series of Artemis Fowl, oh, my childhood was made on it. And the beauty of that book was that at the bottom, there was a language, there was a code. And I knew friends who could solve that code. And it hurt. I would be like, you bastards, how dare you? And another book that I loved was the Bartimaeus trilogy by Jonathan Stroud, about a guy who unlocks a genie. The beauty of that book, every time the genie would talk, there would be an asterisk. And at the bottom, there would be a footnote. Yeah, he didn't know shit. He was just an idiot. And I was like, this is such a fun way to write external thoughts. So yeah, that is so far all the book records that I can give. I really hope that if anyone is starting the journey on reading books, at least one of the books that I've recommended hopefully changes your life.
Where did this love for reading come from? Who introduced you to reading?
When I was a kid, my folks used to push me to read, and they used to give me books. Started with basic fairy tales. And then eventually Goosebumps ka pura pyar ho gaya. And I have a collection of around 40 of these too. I will never throw away. Archie comics, Tinkle, Asterix and Obelix, Tintin, Mad comics. These are all the things I used to read. There was a second-hand bookstore near my house. So every day I would quietly walk. I'm like, Uncle, kya hai aaj? And he's like, go. And then in the dirty, this thing, I would pull out some comics. I would pull out some books. And that eventually started into more and more reading, into more and more. And I'm being very honest. When I pushed myself and managed to read this, right? When I finished this book, I was like, man, I want to read more.
Nice.
Because reading and writing are synonymous, right? The more you read, the more you want to write. The more you want to write, the more you realize you need to read. So it's very important, if you're a writer, that you read. It's very important that you understand the world, So yeah, hopefully my sapna is one day to write a book. 30 saal ka sapna hai. I have written many chapters and abandoned them, but hopefully एक दिन कुछ ना कुछ तो होगा. तो